Catflap chats, we're back again. It's been a long time coming, this one. We've been useless trying to get each other's diaries sorted, but our guest today, Newcastle, Hartlepool lad. Is that right, Hartlepool?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Hartlepool, Newcastle, Leicester Tigers, Bath, back at Newcastle again. England Sevens, England Saxons, Mr. Micky Young. How are you, pal?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Have I missed anyone there?
West Hartlepool.
Oh, sorry, West Hartlepool. There we are.
Can't leave them out. Yeah, mate, all good. Sunny up north again, as per usual. Can't complain too much. Getting back to some sort of normality, so is what it is. Yeah, all good, mate. How's things with you?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Always smiling in Wales. Just carrying on, really. Just winging life as we're going along. I see. What have you got there? Do you have a Coke? Have you?
Yeah. What you got?
I've got a non-alcoholic beer because I try and have a beer with every person, but I'm playing badminton tonight, all 18 stone of me, so I thought I'd not quite get on the beers yet because otherwise I'll be a mess later.
Yeah, I'm in rehab as well, so I'm trying to stick off the alcohol.
What has the last couple of months been like for you then? Obviously, proper lockdown, season finished. Newcastle didn't get to finish their season, but you guys been promoted, so you've probably been through some highs and lows that you've never experienced before. What's it been like?
Yeah, mate, it's been a proper odd season, to be honest. Like, obviously, getting relegated was awful. Like, nobody ever wants to do that, and that brought its own challenges. And then the championship was massive eye opener in terms of like what you had to face. There's a lot of physical teams in that league, obviously, standard wise, nowhere near to what the Premiership is. But like every weekend is obviously a cup final for every team that play against us, and it's sort of them where like you go to some places where you're not quite on the money, and they're just going to get aggressive at you and get niggly at you, and they'll bring you to a dogfight. I mean, like, we had some good performances, but we had some poor performances as well throughout the season, but still managed to be unbeaten. Yeah. Then I think we got to 12 games in, I think, and that was when lockdown happened. We played Bedford on the Friday night, and then after that it was lockdown. The season was done, type of thing. There was a little bit of feeling that they didn't want us to get promoted, but it was a little bit silly from them to even contest it, being completely honest. But yeah, so like odd season, but now we're just sort of hanging in back in pre-season, waiting for the Prem to start, which again we've never come across yet, having to wait till November. Especially when the games are getting played now, like a couple of games a week and stuff. It's a bit of an odd situation, but yeah, we're just kind of waiting in the lurches, really.
Did it feel like in that championship season then, like you were a Premiership team who just happened to be in the championship, and that you were miles apart when it would come to the crunch games?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it brought us down to earth, mate. We got relegated for a reason, because at that point we were the worst team in the Premiership.
Yeah.
It is what it is. They're the facts. Like, you go down when you don't win as many games as the team above you. So we had to take that on the chin, and we were another team in the championship. Yeah, we were a league above. Like, there was a big divide between us, and I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I'm not trying to be arrogant in terms of what we are, because it was very humbling having to come down in that league. But there was a big divide. We did still, albeit we were in the championship, we did still perceive ourselves as a Premiership team, and we try to set our own at that level. Rather than, I don't know, like come down to the level that what the championship is. No disrespect to it, but we're a team that wanted to be performing in the Premiership and trying to do our best in the Premiership. And it was only the year before that we were top four, and we still have that taste in our mouth of what that was. And then to get relegated the year after, it was a huge disappointment. And we still had that image in our head that we were still a Premiership team, and obviously we're back in there now. We just got to wait a little bit longer to play again.
Yeah, I see. I've got one of the guys in your commercial team actually from Newcastle on LinkedIn, and it's interesting seeing the difference in outputs socially and commercially from yourselves compared to some of the others who might not have the resources and used to working at that level as well, maybe? So it's interesting to see that. Did it bring you guys closer together? Did it make you more of a team and we've got to get through this to get back up there?
Yeah, I think so, mate. And as well, like, albeit that again, like, no disrespect, albeit that we should have been winning each game that we were playing. We were winning every week, and a winning mindset just sort of keeps breeding on and just keeps progressing, and it just, like, the ball just keeps rolling type of thing, and then you have more scope to be able to socialise with each other because you're on that winning mentality and winning mindset. You want to get with each other because everyone's enjoying the rugby because you're winning games and you're scoring tries and all that type of stuff. So it does bring you together, but it also, like I said, it gives us a good perspective of where we don't want to be, and as a team what we need to do to make sure we don't go back into that. Into that we stay up in the Premiership and keep pushing forward that way. And I think it's just probably opened a lot of people's eyes to what is required of us as individuals and as a team.
That's good. It obviously brings you back down to earth and you start again then. What was lockdown like then afterwards? Obviously not knowing if the season was going to start or, if it was going to end or you were going to carry it on like the Prem have. What was that like for you and for some of the other players?
Well, to be honest, for us, it happened quite quick. So obviously the Bedford game happened, and then the league got canned quite quick. So we just had to get our head around it quite quick. The only thing we were waiting for was to work out whether we were definitely getting promoted or there was going to be any changes to what happened with Saris or what happened with us going forward, or whether Ealing were going to challenge it or whatever. So that was the only really like sticky point where we were kind of like, what do we do? What do we do? And then there was the Bedford game on the Friday night, and Dean had said the games had been cancelled on the Saturday or the Sunday. So we played Friday, and the games were cancelled Saturday and Sunday. I think the next weekend's game was cancelled as well. And we've been told that the Bedford game almost didn't go ahead. So boys were like, right, we haven't got a game next weekend. Let's get into the tune, you know.
Yeah.
And Dean had like said, "Oh, no, let's not do it yet," because that's when it was on. The code was kind of on its rise.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Don't want anyone in the squad to get it." So lads, like, I spoke to Dean. I was like, "You just told us we're not playing next week. Like, can we?" And he's like, "Just wait a few more days." And then it got to we got Monday training got cancelled, and then Tuesday was come in, and then Dean put the bar on for us, and then that's when we had a bit of a blowout with Paddy's Day actually.
Yeah.
So it was, we went into Jesmond and had a good day and
What a place! What a place! One of my favourite places was it. Yeah, Troy. One of my mates, Troy, is Stags. We stayed in.
I know. I remember you saying, because you messaged when you said you were coming, but yeah,
Osborne Road.
Man, it was bouncing like again, like the whole. There's been a lot of lives lost and stuff during this COVID situation, but at that point, people were still like underestimating what it was. So the bars were just absolutely fucking rammed, like just as if like nothing else was going on. I mean, I know we're quite separate. Newcastle is very separate to the rest of England to some extent. So we don't really see like the whole London thing and all that was going on, but it was almost untouched at that point. People were just, it was crazy. I think it hit the papers, to be fair, because it was like people spilling out in Osborne Road and Irish hats on and that, and we were kind of like, shit, hope doesn't catch any of the boys on the papers. Like,
the thing is, if Ireland are cancelling Paddy's Day, you know it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I mean, they canned Temple Bar completely, so people were out. I know a couple of people were out there, and they were like, "There's nothing open. Like, what do we do?"
Right.
Yeah, so
man,
they just
continued at that point. It did shut down pretty quick after that, but I think that was kind of the last hurrah.
Yeah. There was one in Cardiff. So Cardiff, obviously, Scotland got cancelled the day before. And I still went out. and town was heaving.
Was
No
it?
one give a shit because no one knew anyone who had it. So
Yeah.
no one cared. No one trusts the government or whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. And then, a week after that, I caught it and tested positive.
Did you?
Yeah, a couple of weeks later, and then a week after that, I was in hospital. So at that point, I was like, all right, yeah, it's bad. It's around. But I had, like you, I had one last blowout in town. Thought you knew best, and then obviously ended up suffering for a couple of weeks. But there we are. What did you get up to in lockdown then? Because obviously, as rugby players, you never have this time off unless God forbid you're injured. You never get to have an extended time.
Mate, to be honest, it's been like I've had this conversation with quite a lot of people. People going, "Oh, are you missing it? Like, what, you desperate to get back in and stuff like that." And when you look through the whole mental side of things, we've never had any period of time like this ever since obviously we became professional rugby players to fully rest, recover, and recharge to some extent.
Yeah.
And so since March, we didn't know when rugby was going to even if it was going to start again. We didn't even know. We didn't know what our job was going to be. We went down to 50% salary, which is a huge hit, and everyone was kind of like, "What the fuck do we do?" Even if boys wanted to go, or the bars were open, that boys probably wouldn't because they weren't getting paid enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You'd be all right up there, surely. You're king of Newcastle, mate.
So it's give everyone an opportunity really just to fully refocus and recharge, and actually the seasons roll around really quick. You get 5 weeks off, but even then 5 weeks usually you get 2 weeks of rest, and then the other 3 are you're panicking or doing your best to get yourself ready for pre-season. So you don't really rest or recover properly because you go 2 weeks, and that goes so quick. You know how quick 2 weeks goes.
Yeah.
And then weeks is pretty much your own pre-season before you go to pre-season. So you effectively get 2 weeks off. And then the season goes again, and you're back in the season, and just kind of they all just merge into one to some extent. And I think something they did which pre-season, it's my 13th pre-season or something, which is I remember when it was my first. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's given us a chance to really fully just switch off and do things that boys have been training hard actually, because I think it's all they know. They've had opportunities to once they relaxed a little bit and they could go to bars and whatever and have barbecues and stuff. It was quite a lot of drinking, but quite a lot of socialising, drinking, getting together, but then a shitload of work through the week, and then do you know what I mean? But there wasn't as much pressure or emphasis on having to I don't know, be so worried about what's coming next weekend or what's coming.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I suppose for you guys, that routine is key to what you guys do. I suppose I don't know the ins and outs of being a professional, obviously, but I can imagine you would get an email, your schedule for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Here's the games. Here's when they're being played. Here's training. Blah blah blah. And to not have that, you still need some sort of routine to be able to keep a bit of focus, keep going. Because obviously, it's tough being stuck in the house. As much as it's not as tough as going to war or doing whatever, it is tough for some people just being stuck in the house, not being able to go out and do anything. I mean, luckily it was summer, so people could go and walk and ride your bike or whatever. But mentally, that does bring its own challenges.
Yeah, man. I mean, being completely honest, I'd fully lost my way a bit. To begin with, I was obviously smashing through Netflix and whatever. And I was just going through series, and I was the next thing I'd be I'm not proud, but 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm sat there putting another episode on. I was like, "Fuck you doing?" And then I'd sleep, and I'd be right now I can't sleep, so I'll watch another episode. And it was just I did that, mate, probably about 3 or 4 weeks, and that's quite a long period of time to be acting like a teenager. Do you know what I mean?
Student,
Yeah, I was doing that, and I was thinking, you got to so the club would let us take equipment home from the gym, but even that, I didn't really have a routine because I could do it when I wanted. So
Yeah.
Didn't matter what time I got up, or even if I did it at, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. Do you know what I mean? I could just do what I want. So it was that, and then I was going like jumping on one of the school fields that I live nearby to do like my running. And there's a park that has like an incline hill in it. I was doing running on there, but like even that, like you do when you want. Like there's no structure or routine to it, and it was bizarre. Like it was a strange little situation. You couldn't like at that point you couldn't invite the boys over because you weren't allowed. So you couldn't even just be like let's come on a few beers and I couldn't go down that route. I mean, I'm not one for sitting on my own having a beer. Like I just find it almost depressing. I was just I was like, I can't do that. Like so, even on like FaceTime, on like Zoom or FaceTime, I was just like, nah, I'm not drinking while I'm just sitting on my own. Like you just go, you make yourself worse because you sat in the house like bang your head off a wall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was just a challenge in itself, just trying to not be like, oh, like, I'm isolated on my own, like, what do I do? But, man, it passed quite quick. Like, you got to a point where you could start then, like, seeing someone else, and then someone could come over and sit in the garden or whatever, and then...
Yeah. It feels like March was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, what are we, September now? Like, it's fucking berserk, mate. Like, we ended up moving house. I mentioned it on the pod last week. Like, we ended up moving house just because 3 of us in a 2-bed flat in Cardiff Bay, and it's just like no space. Just couldn't move without tripping over someone or standing on a bit of Lego or just losing my head over the stupidest stuff. But yet, my girlfriend and my daughter, good as gold, did nothing wrong. But we're all just at each other a little bit. And I was like, right, work was good. Work was tough. That was tough. Fuck this. I'm going to move. Let's do it. And we moved without viewing the house. I've seen it online. They sent me a video on WhatsApp. I went, yes, I'll take it. You know, bit more bedrooms, garden, garage, done. And luckily, it's amazing. So I just pulled the trigger on it.
Yeah.
I was going out of my mind,
like the amount of time I've been obviously living here, and obviously I'm from the area and stuff. Never ever had a wetsuit. I've been surfing a couple of times. The next thing I'm just like, right, fuck it, I'm getting a wetsuit, and then I'm taking up surfing and like the time off, and I'm just like trying to become this surfer or like paddleboard or whatever down a timeout. Mate, it's actually class down there at the moment though. Like there's been fucking dolphins and all sorts jumping about, so it's been pretty sick. Like, but yeah, now I'm attempting to be I watched a few surfing documentaries. Now I'm attempting to be a surfer. I just need to be able to grow my hair, make sure my hair gets long, but that's not going to happen.
You want to get one of those hair studios now so I can sort the threads out.
Get myself in.
Class. Take us back to the beginning, pal, then. West Hartlepool. What was your rugby journey sort of as a kid, and what were you like as a kid? Did you play a load of different sports? Was it only ever rugby? Is that all you ever wanted to do, or did you kind of fall into it?
Well, mate, when I was growing up, like West Hartlepool were actually in the Premiership. So that was my local team. That was the team I grew up with. But they at the time were like a really good team and played like all the big dogs. And I grew up around the likes of them playing against like Leicester, Saracens, Bath, like all that. Like back in the olden days, mate, when like rugby was like you were in the bar with the players afterwards as like kids. Do you know what I mean? They were having pints and you were like banging into them and causing a bit of shit, do you know what I mean, in the club. And it was obviously very family orientated at that point, and that was what I grew up with. And obviously played there all through like my age groups, and then ended up going to Durham School for sixth form. I went to Brereton Comprehensive in Hartlepool to begin with. They weren't really a rugby playing school. Well, they weren't actually. I played a lot of football there. And we put a rugby team together, mate, but it was basically like a lot of boys who couldn't get in the football team wanted school, do you know what I mean? Just like had a rugby kit and put it on and ran around and fucking, whatever. So we were never really that good as a school team, but then I got a scholarship at Durham School which was awesome. Went there for sixth form. We got the Daily Mail Cup final my first year under Paul Gerrard, who still lives in the area, actually. I haven't seen him for a while, but he's a great bloke. And then from there, obviously, joined the Falcons. Had a good start to my career. I had like some awesome players around me when I first came into the setup. Yeah. Like I said, Phil Dowson was the captain at the time. A great guy. Yeah, like Hall Child, who was scrum half at the time, I learned a lot of. Yeah. He looked after me very well when I was coming through. I owe a lot to him. And even like the other people he had around, like Johnny was there at the time. Johnny actually left to go to Toulon as I sort of got into the team, so I never ever played with them. Yeah. Like Jamie Noon and people like that, which were like class professionals, internationals and that. But my second year there was like mass exodus, and they all just, when you're a youngster, mate, like you sat in the changing room, you're not in their changing room because you're in the other one. Yeah. Everything's going well because you're playing first team rugby, but you don't have them conversations with them senior boys because they're late 20s, 30s, and you're like 19, so you don't have them conversations. And then I signed again for 2 years, and you think, oh, that's what I want to be at this club, like with all these players and that. And then the next thing, like, they've all gone, and you're like, sat, like, what the fuck? And then you just I didn't even know, and they'd all just gone, and then you had to rebuild with these players who are like massively respected, are just gone, because of certain things that were going on at the club at the time, and they didn't really agree with them. So yes, I was there for another 2 years, and then obviously went over to Leicester for 2 years, which again, like, learned a lot from. Didn't play that much there, but learned a lot being there. And they got to one final and won one final in the Prem. Didn't actually feature me either, but I was. And John Terry the second one when they won the final. I actually
the full kit like that. Go on.
Even have the full kit. I had to take my top off just to pretend. I had the shorts and socks, so I had to like pretend that I was like involved. So the pictures in the change room, I had like my top off just so it didn't look as if I was just in a t-shirt. But yeah, mate, it was awesome. Leicester as well. I learned a lot of people there. Like at the time, Geordie Murphy, who's now director of rugby there. Yeah. Was a great bloke. He was captain at the time. You have this perception of people when you see them on TV and you grow up and you watch them and they're winning things, and then when you meet them, you kind of like you're just in awe of them. But then just as soon as like I met them, you just kind of like settled you down. Like it wasn't like this, like wasn't this bloke that you'd seen on the TV that you were sort of like almost like frightened of. He was just this guy who was a really good leader, and he looked after people, and he was awesome bloke, which meant a lot to me at the time. I do still think a lot of Geordie. There's a lot of other boys in the squad that were great as well. But I obviously was just 2 years at Leicester, and then moved over to Bath, where I had 2 years there as well, which was again awesome. I had a great time at Bath. Loved the city. Some really good boys there. Like how we got to know each other as well through Dom and Webbs and whatever. Loved my time in Bath, and then it was time to come home, and then I've been here for the last 5 years, which is 6 years now, which has been awesome, mate. Like I was so keen to come home, but I know it had only been 4 years, but you do miss home. Well, I found I did. Be able to come back and get the opportunity from Dean to come back was great. And then been here since, and just I'm pretty rooted here now, I think.
Man of the time, running things like. Talk me through your with Leicester. You obviously won the league, and do you win the cup as well? Do you win a cup? One of the cups down there? Was it the Anglo Welsh or something like that?
So I think they must have won the LV Cup that year.
Oh, LV then, yeah. Sorry, that was it.
The LV Cup. Got the final of the Premiership the first year. Got beat off Quins in the final. I think it was Quins. And then I think they won the LV Cup that year. And then the following year, that was when they won the Prem.
Who were
beating off that final.
Okay, and why Leicester out of obviously all the other teams? How come you moved down there?
So as a youngster, mate, Leicester was so. My auntie lives in Coventry, and we used to go visit, and then we'd go watch Leicester and Leicester always, mate, Leicester won everything, didn't they?
Yeah, they were class. Yeah.
Absolutely class. And as a youngster, I'd always said like I'd love to play for Leicester. And it was always the team that I always like be awesome to play for Leicester. Like they were probably the world's most famous team at one point.
Yeah.
And then things weren't great at Newcastle in terms of what was going on behind the scenes and stuff. And I was ready to leave. I wanted to leave, and it was at the time it was actually between Leicester and Gloucester.
Yeah.
At that, I can't remember who was actually playing scrum half for Gloucester at the time, but they wanted to sign me, and probably game time wise would have been a much better decision for me to go down that route.
Yeah.
Especially with Ben Youngs at Leicester at the time.
But they have Harry Ellis then as well?
No, Harry Ellis wasn't there at that point. It was Ben Young, James Grindle, and Sam Harrison. Yeah. But it was a World Cup year, so basically the way Cockers had sold it to me was, we want you to come here. And to be honest, I always wanted to go to Leicester, so I was kind of like, right, just get me there. Like, I was kind of like, I was still relatively young, and you just kind of you back yourself in any situation. It was kind of like, fuck, I want to go. I'll give it a crack, regardless of the fact that Ben Youngs was number one in England at the time. Like I was just like, I want to go to Leicester.
Yeah.
And the way Cox sold it was that Ben Youngs would go to be away with the World Cup. I'd have a period of time at the start of the season when he'd be away, and that would be when I would play, and then when he comes back, then we would challenge each other, or however it would work like that, and then that's how I would get my crack. And the way it happened, mate, I ended up going there and ended up with quite a few injuries, and then I actually ended up getting banned, mate. I got banned for 8 weeks. So I'd literally cut a long story short, I got injured. Then Ben had come back from the World Cup. Grins and Sam Harrison were starting in front of me, so I'd actually dropped down to the fourth choice, which was like a proper kick in the teeth, to be honest, mate. Because I'd gone there expecting to go like, right, I'm going to battle for 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That was in my head. I'm just going to go and do it. And then I find myself fourth fiddle, and I was just like, oh, fuck, this happened? Like, this wasn't meant to happen. And then basically I got back fit, and there was a game again. There was a Europeans Cup game against Roni at the time.
Yeah.
And Matt O'Connor said, right, we'd been knocked out of the cup, but we had like one more group game left. He's like, right, you're going to start this game. We haven't started yet. You're going to start in this game next week against Roni. I was like, oh, fuck, awesome. Like, let's get me involved type of thing. So I played this game. I'd actually been called into the Saxons squad, even though I hadn't actually featured at all at the start of the season, but they'd called me into the Saxons squad. So played the Aroni game. I'd gone to camp. We were supposed to play in Ireland, Wolfhounds, whatever, that weekend in Exeter. And I was there on the Monday, just got sorted, got down there. We'd had a training session. And then I get in, I have a phone call of Cockers. And basically they were citing me for eye gouging. And I was like, fucking eye gouging? I was like, never eye gouged anybody in my life. Like,
yeah.
Like, look, Cockers was like, look, you need to be honest with me. He's like, if you've done it, just tell me. I'll back you whichever way we need to go. But you need to be honest with me. And I was like, look, I've not done that. Categorically, I've not done that. Would never do that. Whatever. And Cockers like, right, I believe you, just as long as that's true. I was like, yeah, look, that is. Anyway, they go through the video. And what the game wasn't on TV, it was just our cameras that we had in the stand. And basically what happened was Billy Twelvetrees had gone in and he'd head roll. At that point, you could head roll people, and he'd head rolled this Italian guy, and he catches him in the eye, like unintentionally. He's not going to get, but he catches him in the eye, and he actually just get him in the eye. The whistle goes. We actually get a penalty. We had advantage, and then the whistle goes, and the Italian guy sort of like I'm like trying to pick the ball up, and the Italian guy sort of like kicks off a little bit, and then I end up like pulling him through the ruck, and I'm on the floor, and this guy's like head is right side of his face is in the. I have to be like clear with this so his right side of his face is in the head, in the floor, and I've got my right hand on this part of his shirt, so on his left side. He gets up and then says he's been gouged in his right eye, but I'm the last person holding on to him. So he gets up, he goes straight to he's going like, I've been gouged. I didn't actually see that, like in terms of, didn't see him go up the touch judge, but he runs, as I go that way, he goes that way, and he's going so I was, when they watched the video back, must have been me, because I was the last person to be holding him.
They couldn't see really, could they?
No, it's, you can on the video, mate. But this is so basically the way the ERC do it, you have I think it's a 48-hour window to cite someone, and they'd gone in the Italian team had gone in the changing room, got the citing commission of the day. I think it was Budge Pountney, and they'd looked at the video, and I was the last person holding, so they went, "Oh, I've been eye gouged, must be him." I hadn't really looked at the video properly, just gone, "I've been whatever." But when you look back the frames before, he actually gets gouged, obviously, 10 seconds before. He just kicks off and then goes back, and then I'm the last person holding him.
Yeah.
But I was one who got cited, and then when we looked through, so 48 hours had passed, and then, so basically I had to come back from the camp, go over to Ireland, do the meeting, because they then couldn't cite someone else because I'd been cited and was out the window. It was a bit of a weird glitch of what. Yeah. Then I'm sat there and I'm saying, I haven't done it, this and that. And then one of the questions was, I was represented by a QC and everything. Les looked after me really well, mate. Like they were good in what they did. Yeah. But basically, the prop who said, the Italian prop had claimed that he seen me scratching at his face, which is out and out lie. The winger who it happened to, he had actually changed his statement and said, "Look, I had been eye gouged. I'm not saying it was the 9, but I had been eye gouged. I looked at the video and I thought it was him, but I'm not saying he actually did it, but someone did get me." So basically, the way the QC handled it, my QC handled it, was like, they tried to get in touch with the prop, who was uncontactable because he was on a cruise ship in Egypt, so he wouldn't answer he wouldn't get cross-examined. The Italian winger did get cross-examined, and he said, I don't want to accuse him, but somebody did do it. I just looked at the video. I can't say it was him, definitely. So basically what the QC called for was like a half-time judgment call or something, which basically means there's not enough evidence to prove I did it. I didn't actually do it, but there's not enough evidence to prove I did it, so we can't progress with this case. It has to stop now. And the ruling that the judge said was, if that was a court of law, he could walk out now. But as it's a judicial hearing, he has a case to be answered for. And me being very naive to that was like, right, we just got to get into it now. But the QC afterwards had said, as soon as he said that, I knew you were getting banned. And this was the very start, mate. And we sit there for 3 hours, go through all the footage and whatever, and I'm going like, haven't done it, wouldn't do it, all this. I've got like everything going on, and then at the end he goes, could you say to me any other possibility of who's done it? And I was like, right, I've got nothing left here. Like, I've just got to. So I was like, well, yeah, Billy's done it there, because originally the QC said we don't want to blame anyone else because we don't want to go that route now. And Cockers had said to me before, he was like, look, if you get in a sticky situation, I don't give a fuck what the QC said. Fucking say what's happened. Like, say to Billy, don't put yourself in that situation. So I got the end and I was like, right, got no other choice. I was like, right, look, Billy's like, this is what's happened. Billy's caught him in the head roll there. I don't think he's done it on purpose, but he's caught him in it. And I watched it and I was like pausing it. Like I was in control of the clicker and I was going like, pause frame by frame, going, look, he's got his finger in now. And you see it, mate. He's got his like head like stuck like that as he's like head rolled him like that.
Yeah.
You see it, mate? And I'm like, so I stopped and I was like, that's where it is. And apparently I needed to get off with it. I needed another 6 possible potential situations. That's what the judge said.
That's an absolute fucking shambles, mate.
So the get it was saying basically because I pleaded not guilty, I should have got started off for 24 weeks. But they put me down. They started me off at 12 weeks. They knew I hadn't done it, but they needed to ban someone. So I should have started at 24 weeks. They started me at 12, and then they give me good behaviour. So I got 8 weeks, which again is still shambles. I got 8 weeks for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then we'd left, and I was obviously gutted. And then Matt O'Connor rang and said, "Mate, we've got to do something about this. We've got to appeal this because you haven't done it." I was like, "Yeah, we have to appeal." And then the ERC then said, if I appeal, they're going to appeal because the sentence is too lenient. So they were going to appeal for 24 weeks. And I was like, fucking hell, that's nearly
nothing wrong.
I was like, I can't go in there again. Like, what's just happened? Like, so we kind of come to the conclusion that I like take 8 weeks for fucking, and they ruled it as not accidental. They ruled it as like careless, not with intent.
Yeah.
So that meant then that season was done.
What did Billy say after that? Obviously, you haven't thrown him under the bus, but you're just trying to be like, well, look, it just wasn't me. You've got it wrong. Were you right with
that? Well, effectively, fuck it, I didn't do it. Like,
yeah.
But like, still to this day, he doesn't say he did it. Like, and then he went off and played for England and went to Lions, I think. Do you know, like,
yeah.
So like, it worked out well for him. But I took 8 weeks and it kind of fucked my stuff up at Leicester. But I mean, a lot of other things happened. It wasn't just that. But yeah, like we've sort of like had it's been a bit of a strange conversation. Like he'd probably still deny it, like, but I'm pretty sure I've still got the footage somewhere. Like, yeah, it's fucking painful. Like, because I took 8 weeks for doing nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then labelled as someone who's eye gouged, like, and I didn't. Yeah, shit. But then it's happened. Like, just had to move on. You know.
What's what was that culture and sort of ethos at Leicester like compared to Newcastle? Because obviously you went to Newcastle, your hometown, you're fresh, you know, you're a bit wet behind the ears at 19. Obviously you go to Leicester, it's a completely different kettle of fish. What was that change in culture like?
But the change in culture at Leicester was huge, to be honest, because like I was very used to like you're saying, like wet between the ears or whatever the saying is. Like at 19, I was starting week in, week out for Falcons, and I was loving it. And that's all I knew at that point. It was kind of like shock to the system, but I just rolled with it, and I had a lot of good players around me, and it was just they looked after me, and it was we went on a good winning streak and won 7 on the bounce or something. At that season, when all the boys decided to leave, that I thought I was going to with. But anyway, when I go to Leicester, like I'd been so used to kind of like being looked after, and when you were fit, you'd play and all that type of stuff. But Leicester meant like you just had to earn your shirt like every week, really. Like they had like no shit mentality where like you had to play well to have that shirt, and it didn't really matter who you were. Like you played well, and you had like all these big names around you that were just striving to achieve, and were playing international rugby and just held these standards at such high regard. And you had to fit in. You had to like literally like get up to speed really quick to fit into their mold. And there wasn't any room for error. Like, so again, like lots changed now, but like back then when I was at Newcastle, like I'd get away with doing what I wanted and lose the ball, and then someone there might get a penalty or whatever, and it was all right because I know I'd play the week after. Yeah. Whereas do something like less and you let the team down, and they don't get the bonus point that they want, or they don't get the win that they want, or the game's closer than what it was meant to be, or whatever. Like if you let the team down, then you don't play you don't play next week because you've messed up and you haven't done what's right for the team. You've been selfish.
Yeah.
And that, mate, was like a big learning curve for me because I wasn't used to it. And as much as like a lot of the boys there would like help you on the way, like it was complete change in mindset to what I was ever used to in Newcastle at that point. And it was quite a steep learning curve, really.
No, I can imagine. What was it? Obviously, like you said earlier, you went from Leicester then to Bath. What was that like? Obviously, completely different city. The way the people in Bath love their rugby is ridiculous. The whole town goes out for it. What was that like for you, and the way that, again, they played differently as well?
So it's a very different Leicester. Leicester at that point was cemented as one of the top teams in the league. Like, pretty much every year they're in finals. Like that's what it was. So their culture and everything was just rock solid. That was what they were. They were a hard-nosed team, always wanting to succeed. Always had that winning mentality. Whereas when I went to Bath, it was very much a building phase. So there was starting fresh, mate. Gary and Mike and Boothie and Hats had got there already, and they were like starting to build, but we were part of that process. So the new signings that year were part of the process to build the team to where they wanted to get to. So it was a completely different situation, whereas I was coming into something that was already there at Leicester. I was coming into something that they were trying to build at Bath, because there was always, obviously, the whole stuff that happened in the past with the whole drug stuff.
Yeah,
and the whole thing of
Justin Harrison and his friends.
Well, not that I've ever met them, but yeah, them lot. Like, they were trying to get away from that stigma and like a new look Bath, and obviously Mike Ford and Gary and Boothie and Hats were like a great team of coaches, mate. Yeah. Like the systems they developed or designed or whatever were bang on, and the players that were at the club at that point were fucking very good players, mate. Like, star-studded players, and a lot of players who were really trying, like, just kind of starting out on the path as well. Like Anthony Watson was that was what his breakthrough, really. Like Nicky Bendon, and who was playing there, who was obviously class, a Bath boy. And then you had Tony, who was coming through like at the start of his career, and look what he is now. And then Bendy also went away to Clermont and won European Player of the Year. It was a pretty special team. I mean, obviously a very good team now, but then you had obviously Fordy on his path as well, and like I met there's loads like Francois. Where
Kyle Eastman was there at the time.
Like it was like he was
Stephen Donald.
No, he'd gone.
He'd gone by then, didn't he?
Gav Ensign, Super Gav.
Oh yeah, Super Gav.
That was when that was my first pre-season. There was when obviously Gav got knocked out. When Fernsey knocked him out. But
it was all in the papers.
Gav was class though. Like, he's an absolute legend. So was Fernsey, to be fair. I think they're still mates and everything. It was just quite a funny situation. We'd obviously gone to I probably heard the story. We'd gone to the Thatcher's farm on like a commercial day thing. Yeah. Boys got on the steam and were drinking all the Thatcher's place dry, whatever. And then like I'd gone home early with George. We were living together at the time, being like true professionals and that, like, get home, do that. Yeah. And then we'd gone in the next day. We were, I think we were like in like this jacuzzi or something at the club, because Farley House is class, man. Yeah. We're sitting in the jacuzzi, we have a laugh, and then next thing, like, Mike comes around the corner, and like I hadn't noticed, and I was just like, I think George had said something, then like his face was just like, just wasn't laughing, smiling, or anything. I was like, fucking hell, what's wrong with him? And then little did we know, like, Gav had been knocked out, and the papers were going nuts about and stuff, and we were like, oh, fucking hell. So
some character. I'm going to try and get him on here, mate. I've got a couple of connections, and
mate,
see if I can get Super Gav on. It'd be an interesting story, that.
Yeah, he's a good bloke.
He's running a pub now, mate, in Bridgend. It's going really well.
I've seen that, yeah.
It's going really well. Yeah, I enjoyed that. I mean, obviously, I came down quite a few times to Bath, mutual friends. And I'll never forget, I think it must have been Dom's last game. Was it your last game as well? And Hooper's last game, or did you go the season before? It was like Stuart Hooper's last game.
Tom stayed another year, didn't he?
Yeah. But like the whole day, obviously they put the marquee up. All the friends and family were in. We just caused carnage all day basically, and then they allowed us to hang around with the players now. But everyone was great. The coaches were great. One of my mates had these, like the driving beer goggles that you put on, and you're supposed to try and walk straight, and it's the equivalent.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Drunk behind the wheel. One of my mates had them, and was putting them on like Danny Grucock's head, then Mike Ford's head, and I was just like, what's going on? Like,
Ray put them on Danny Grucock's head.
Hey, honestly, it was berserk. But like, it just, for me, all the kids were there, all the families were there, and everyone, it was barbecue. Everyone just had a great laugh, and I always enjoyed going to Bath because I knew that everyone was respectful of each other and enjoyed each other's company, whether they knew you or not. And it always seemed like a good place to go.
Yeah, I love being in Bath. It was an awesome place to be. Like I said, like being in Rugby City, and everyone's just so like into the rugby, which is such like worlds apart here because
the football.
You've got they live and die for Newcastle United, but like rugby is obviously very second, third fiddle to a lot of things in the city. But Bath isn't. Like everybody wants to be part of Bath. Everybody loves the players of the team. Like want them to do well and stuff. And you're right. It's very much a family oriented club. I know sometimes I haven't been back for a long time, but it's a good place. Yeah,
some good places to go in the night as well. But we'll leave that for another day. Talk to me a bit before we go back to kind of you coming back to Newcastle. Talk to me about your England career, because successful in the Sevens, called up to the Saxons and had a good few games there. Did you play for England against the Barbarians as well? Or did you play for the Barbarians?
No. Yeah, so I played. It was like an uncapped England game against the Barbars.
Yeah.
That was a proper late call up that as well. That one for the Barbarians game. I was actually in Greece at the time, and I got a phone call to Stuart Lancaster, and he's like, "Oh, I just watched the Northampton Leinster final, and Lee Dixon was playing. And Northampton had been beaten, but he finished the game. I was just in my head, scrap contact thing. I get a phone call off Stuart Lancaster. He's like, "Where are you at?" And I was like, "I'm in Rhodes in Greece." And he's like, "When are you coming back?" And I was like, "I'm back Wednesday." And he's like, "Right, well, we need you in camp on the Thursday. Lee Dixon's did his shoulder or something." So he's like, "Can you get back for then?" I was like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Have you done much running?" I was like, "Yeah, loads." Yeah, and he's like, "Right, well, maybe do a couple of sessions before you turn on Thursday." I was like, "Fucking hell." I was like, "Right, okay." So turn on Thursday and we'll play on the Saturday. And then we had the Churchill Cup straight after that.
Yeah.
That must have been, that was the 2011 year.
Yeah.
When I because I was intending on going to Leicester and have like a strong pre-season, but I had the Churchill Cup. It was in England at the time. But yeah, then just kind of, because I didn't get any consistency in rugby for the next probably 4 years. I got a consistency in rugby probably at Bath in my first year. Didn't get a look in then, and then the last time I played Saxons was we went to South Africa. Under Jones, I got called into again. That was a strange one. We'd gone on have you ever been to Leeds on the Otley Run?
No, I've heard about it though.
Right, so we did end of the season. So it's my first year back in Newcastle.
Yeah.
We're in a relegation battle, and I was like, mate, I was having like chats to myself, just like, fuck me, like, is this what I've like come to now? Like, I'm back in a relegation battle, like, come back to Newcastle type of thing, and I was getting a little bit lost with rugby to some extent, and then we pulled ourselves out of that relegation. We beat London Irish, third last game of the season, I think. Basically, like, secured that we wouldn't get relegated, and they got relegated. Didn't really think anything of it, and all of a sudden, we're on the Otley Run, and then one of the boys was like, were you not going to tell us? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you've been named in the training squad. I was like, what's he on about? Like, didn't have a clue. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then the next thing, one of the boys puts the link into the WhatsApp group and was like, I'd been uncapped player named in the Brighton squad to train. It was at the point where like the finals, the semis and the finals had been played, so it was like
yeah.
It was a make-up squad type of thing. And then I went to South Africa that year. That was in 2016 with the Saxons. That was the last time I'd played. Yeah, like, man, I did like. There's a lot of good scrum halves around who are playing well for clubs that are doing really well too. Like, I think it's always been a hotly contested position with England.
It's been a strength, isn't it?
Like Ben Youngs has held it for a long time. He obviously plays really well, but again, there's a lot of good players in that position coming through. A lot of youngsters coming through, and not that young anymore. So I don't know what was going on with that, but like I said, it's yeah.
Did you ever have conversations about that senior squad and what you needed to do to break into that?
It's kind of. So obviously, I got back from the South Africa trip, and didn't really get any feedback. Dan Robson was the other night on the trip. He had an awesome game. Awesome start in the first game. I think did he score? Yeah, anyway, he played well. He's a really good bloke. But he played well in the start of the game, but actually knocked his ankle in the first 25-30. Yeah. I played the rest of that game. We beat them, and then he managed to pull through for the next game. And I came off the bench in that second game. He had a good trip, and then I didn't really get any feedback from the back of it. I didn't think I'd played that well in general, but I thought I defended really well, which